Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about the PTR and the patch. Very hot topic. I'm going to be giving my thoughts. What do I think that Blizzard has accomplished, what they're trying to accomplish, and will this be good for the game? And what should you do as a player during this time, right? So, first and foremost, we want to talk about the big elephant in the room. Did Blizzard accomplish the goal that they were trying to accomplish with this? Well, let's read it from their mouths themselves. They said, "We tried to make this PTR focus on extending the early and mid game, allowing players to remain competitive on 1 to 3 bases for longer periods. We've introduced change to make non-warped gateway a more viable path, while also increasing overall strategic diversity across all 3 races." Okay, so that breaks it down into 3 points. They want to allow players to remain more competitive on 1 to 3 bases. And this combines with extending the early and mid-game experience. So let's talk about that one first. Are they able to do that? So far, yes. The early game feels slower, but this is, in my experience, a good thing for new players. New players that don't have the sense of urgency or attention span needed for high-paced games the moment they start trying to play them. A slower start is a better experience for them because it allows them that grace period to figure things out in the early game. Did they extend the mid-game experience? Yes. Yes, they have. Now, it depends upon the game you're playing, but the mid-game, in my experience so far, and I have about 80 games under my belt in the last 2.5 days, is that the mid-game lasts about 1.5 to 2 minutes longer if everyone is playing as they should, making workers at a decent time, expanding, not going for super early all-ins, what have you. Now, cheeses are very popular, and they're going to be even more so for the next probably a year or so. Even when this patch comes out, cheeses are going to be exceptionally popular because when people don't have the early game figured out, it's very easy for you to get strategic wins in the early game when someone doesn't have the absolute correct response to know how to defend. So, one of the first things I think you should do as a player is I think you should understand the depth and scope of what your race is capable of off 1 and 2 bases. That should be your first priority. Because if you're able to do that, not only will you be able to defend cheeses better, but you'll be able to execute them. And in executing them, you'll see what other kinds of defenses that players pull out against you that seem to work, what doesn't, etc. It will increase your scope, and it'll make it to where when this does actually release, this will be much, much better for you, right? You'll have a lot more information. It's like having it's like insider trading, but for Starcraft almost, being able to play the PTR right now. All right. The second one was they wanted to make non-warped gateway units a more viable path. Is this the case? I think it potentially is. Warp gates seems like something that you want to be going for around 3 base economy. Or maybe right after defending some sort of push. That way you have that extra 30-40 seconds to make up the money loss from transforming it into the gateways, right? So, it's something that is going to take a while to figure out, though, because I can't say for certain. And I have also... It's just the experience has been mixed on my end. I like the ideas. I think that they provide a variance in gameplay, but it does feel like you're 20 or 30 supply behind in some situations where you otherwise shouldn't be. Now that will get figured out, especially as the openers get tightened up a little bit more. Another thing as well is that Protoss has a bug right now where Nexi are giving 1 less supply than intended. In the patch notes, they say the Nexi is supposed to be 13 supply when it's only providing 12 at the moment, so after you wouldn't need a second pylon until 19, whereas you're having to grab it at 18 right now, and then after the second Nexus finishes, it would take you to 41, but it's only taking you to 40, so on and so forth. So there are definitely a couple bugs that need to be worked out. Speaking of bugs, another one, a visual bug above the Twilight Council whenever it is making an upgrade, and then Vipers also are still not able to target tanks as well. Those are the 3 that I know of so far. I'm sure there are many, many more, as is always the case with these kinds of things. So, something to keep in mind that there will be a lot of bug fixes, and these changes are not final, right? So, if there's something that you don't like, what I suggest is, for your health as a player, and depending upon your own level of competitive integrity, which to me, competitive integrity is just the spirit of competition, right? Like you want to be the best competitor you absolutely can, regardless of what level you're playing at, correct? So, in order to do that, even if there is something that you don't like, it's more beneficial for you that you're competent in that area than not. So if there's something about the PTR patch you don't like at this moment, I would still recommend getting a good feeling for it. And it's like eating your vegetables, you know, so then you'll be able to eat the steak. Steak being MMR points in this metaphor. And the last point that they were trying to make, they wanted to increase overall strategic diversity across the 3 races. Have they accomplished that goal? Yes, actually, I think that they have. I feel like I've been able to play all different kinds of openers. The Infestor feels particularly good in Zerg versus Terran without having to research Microbial and with the range being a lot longer. So I feel like I'm able to play any sort of army I want, really, against Terran and have a decent chance to take good fights against things like Mech. Ghosts also feel really good as well. The Ghosts, in my experience so far, probably slightly overtuned. But I think what'll happen with the Ghost is that we will see the damage be reduced to like 15 and then +5 versus light or something like that. Because 20 just seems a bit too much. It's very strong against early game Protoss and just Protoss in general. And one thing I want to say is one of the reasons it may feel that way at the moment as well is because it's not figured out yet. So I want to give it that kind of grace, you know, but it does feel very strong as someone who has played this game and lived and breathed this game with the best players in the world for over a decade now. All of that being said, what do I think that you should do as a player, right? How can you make the most out of this PTR experience? Well, put it this way. In my head, the timeline for release is anywhere between 5 to 12 weeks. They're either going to do it about a month before BlizzCon, or they're going to do it they're going to do it right after BlizzCon. So BlizzCon's in about 12 weeks. So about a month before would be about 5 weeks from now. So either way, though, the PTR is going to go through many, many, many changes from now until then, right? And I think the best thing that you can do, regardless of what changes, is be playing the PTR. That way you do not have to feel overwhelmed learning a new game whenever it does go live. Think about how all of those people on ladder are going to feel, the ones that don't decide to play the PTR because they're hoping that it doesn't go through. When changes inevitably need to happen and they will go through, and your feelings don't really matter unless it's like a overwhelming 90% majority. Like, it's not going to make that kind of difference, right? So regardless of how you feel, if you want to be competitive in the game, which I assume anyone with good competitive integrity does want that for themselves, then you should, you can do whatever you want, right? But you should play the PTR as much as you can stand it, right? Because even playing through all the changes and iterations, it's just like you will be hundreds of games ahead of your average Joe whenever this does release on ladder. It's like getting to beta test a game, right? Basically. So it's just like you will have experience that others don't have. And as far as competitive integrity goes, if anyone here is wanting to be a competitor in any sort of league, this is a way to get a competitive edge. Because the moment this goes live, all of your tournaments, all of your team leagues, everything that happens in terms of fighting format, right, is going to be moved to this new patch. So regardless of whether you feel a certain way about the patch and you just choose not to practice because of you feel one way or another, right, it will happen. Some version of these changes will be put into play, and it's better that you be prepared than allow your stubbornness to stop you from being as prepared the best you can. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I think you guys should do. This is the best time that there's ever been, or that there's been in the last 10 years to really, really reinvent yourself with how you're playing and think about climbing, right? Because everyone is getting moved to a somewhat more even playing field, and that is a good thing. It's also going to be a change for the viewer experience. People complain about the fact that cheeses get brought back, but they also think that everyone just enjoys watching, 30-minute slugfest macro games when that's not the case. Most opinions and responses that I've seen in regards to this kind of thing are people that are just like, man, every game has looked the same for the last 5-6 years, and I just kind of stopped watching Starcraft. I've had a couple personal friends myself message me and tell me that they are going to asking if I've seen the changes and that it's making them want to play Starcraft again. So regardless of how you feel about it, the game is being talked about again. This is only good for the health of our game, something that we all love. Anyone who is even watching this video, you definitely are going to love it because, you know, small niche channel, if you will, right? So it's just like, I know that this game has gotten me through a lot of tough times in my life, and it is something that I've dedicated my love and passion to for a decade at this point. And I'm very happy to see it getting some love and some life, and I have not played this much ladder back to back to back in years. And I mean years. For the first time in a long time, I played like 35 games in a single day, which I haven't done that kind of gameplay since I was like 16. So there's something to keep in mind. Even if you're a hater of this patch, I empathize with you because you have been trying to master the craft for the last 10 years or so, but I implore you to think about the bigger picture and know that it is time for change, right? So pull yourself up by your bootstraps, figure out what you can and can't do, and at the very least, give it like 150 games before you make a real opinion on whether you think, oh, it's gonna kill StarCraft, my race is unplayable, yada yada yada. Like, the fear-mongering and moaning and groaning I've played this game for a long time, right? I've been here through a lot of balance patches. And in my experience, every time I see those of you that do decide to do that, every time I see something like that taking place, it always has ended up being a good thing for the game. So, mark this video down, come back in a year, this will be good for the game, in my opinion. Like, just for publicity and what people coming back, grabbing funding, like Diablo's having a collaboration with Starcraft. It's coming back to the Classic Cup. We're getting a new shooter game, like all different kinds of possibilities are happening. We have a whole team working on it. We're getting new animations in the game, which is something that hasn't been changed in like 8 years. This is, for the better half of the last decade, this is the most exciting time to be a StarCraft player. Before this, the exciting times were, oh, the funding for the pro scene of the game is kind of dying out, and then a giant like ESL or something is like, we'll be able to guarantee a couple more years of consistent funding for that. That was exciting. Someone extending us a lifeline, whereas what this actually is game development, right? Like, they are giving us actual updates and development and new animations and things that people will find cool. Big changes, like, that can actually bring people back to the game. It's just exceptionally exciting as a StarCraft player. And for those of you that are not feeling this way, I feel bad for you a bit, because it's just like the change can only really be a good thing here in this kind of context. As much as people don't want you to believe that it is the case, like I've been seeing a lot of memes talking about like, oh, what do the changes matter if there will be no one here to play it? But also from the actual community of people that still matter, right? Still matter, that are potentially coming back to the game or talking about it from a casual perspective, I've seen almost nothing but excitement. The only disdain I really see is from either pro players, which makes sense because this adds chaos to their livelihood, and anytime you mess with someone's livelihood, they are not going to appreciate it regardless of what the change is. And Protoss players who aren't happy about having to learn how to replay their race, which that is also, like I said, I empathize with that, I understand. Regardless of your stance on these kinds of things, though, this will be good for the game, and I hope you guys can find it within yourselves to give it a shot. Thank you guys so much for listening to my rant. If you do or don't agree with me, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Now, at the very end, we're going to watch the end of this game. This is a insane comeback I had in a TVT yesterday, the day before on the PTR, but yeah, I was down by more than half the workers and like 50 supply total after that Raven push. He went 3CC, so I wasn't expecting the Raven push to be as strong as it was. So I was very happy with the comeback in this game. But yeah, here we go. All I gotta do is hold this push. I'm inside of his main base. So we just keep sieging tanks in max, it's not max range, but within range of one another. We just keep pulling the boys. It really doesn't matter at this moment whether I lose workers, because all that matters is that I stop his push, because then I'm more than doubling his workers still, even after all that. But GG gets called. Nice. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.